Hello, everybody, and welcome to this latest Harts podcast. I'm delighted to have with me Mr. Tommy Taylor, who is a professional rugby player with Sale Sharks. You started your career at Macclesfield Rugby Club. How did you actually get into the game?
Family, to be honest. I think I spent most of my childhood at the rugby club. I remember every Saturday watching my dad.
He was an accomplished rugby player as well.
Yeah, accomplished. Yeah, I think he's told you to say that. No, he was. Yeah, he definitely was. I went to go watch him on Saturdays. Used to spend probably all my afternoons and evenings there while he was finishing his game and in the clubhouse.
Right.
And then Sunday mornings, I used to go. Me and my brother. I think we started early when we were about both of us 4 or 5 years old. And yeah, loved it. Kind of loved the environment. And yeah, didn't really look back from there really. That's kind of how I got into it.
And then how did you get into Sale Sharks? Because you started off at Sale Sharks before moving to Wasps and coming back to Sale Sharks again.
So I think going through playing at Macclesfield and went to Kings Mac. And actually I had a few trials like kind of, you have North of England trials and England trials, and I had North of England trials and never got into any of the teams on that, so it kind of knocked me back a little bit, which I think in the long term helped me. I actually went on tour with Leicester when I was about 17, when I was at school. Again, went on tour, didn't play, I was too small, they said.
Right.
Which again kind of knocked me a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it was my final year at school, probably when I was about 18, I kind of got involved in the Sale Academy, which looking at the lads who are there now, it's quite late really. Like they kind of pick up boys when they're kind of 14, 15, maybe earlier.
Yeah.
And then finished school, and kind of took a bit of a chance. I wanted to go away with my mate for a little bit, but I was like, I'm going to give this rugby thing a chance for a year.
Okay.
Didn't have a contract or anything, just was turned up at Sale every day, training with the academy and stuff, trying to get that contract, and managed to at the end of the year get one. So that's kind of how I got into it. Not really that common, I think. Normally
Not the traditional
way. Yeah. I think a lot of people will go England 16s, 18s, 20s and follow that path up. Whereas mine was a little bit more stop-starty. But I think in the long term it probably helped me. It's kind of been a common theme through my career of thinking I have to prove myself all the time, which I think's helped me, I think, definitely.
Why the move to Wasps away from Sale Sharks?
I think where Sale were at the time, I've been involved in a few England camps by then, I think.
Yes.
And I kind of had the realisation, my knowledge was pretty limited compared to a lot of their players. You could tell the coaching they'd had at the clubs, and they come into that environment, they were a lot more confident, probably a lot more technical than I was. It kind of opened my eyes a little bit that maybe that wasn't what I was getting at my club at Sale. And also at that point Sale we were kind of 6th, 7th, 8th, and we were trying to finish top 6 one year and in and out of it, whereas I had a bit of interest from quite a few clubs, and Wasps was one where they were pushing for that top 4 playoffs.
Okay.
They were in the semi-final Europe and stuff like that, and it wasn't necessarily going there because I think I was going to enhance my England stuff. It was more to play in bigger games and play in the European big games and the semi-finals and the finals of the Premiership, which was the main move for me as well. I think also quite a few lads had made that transition already from Sale to Wasps that I knew, so I had quite a few friends there, which did help to settle in early on, definitely.
And then you moved back to Sale Sharks a couple of years ago?
Yeah, so last summer it was, so I've had a season there now, so it's the second year now. Similar story really, I think. I had 5 years at Wasps, and we probably weren't as successful as we probably should have been. We got to 2 finals and a few European quarterfinals, but we didn't actually win anything. But it kind of got to the end of a bit of an era. I went there when I think I was 24. You get to kind of 20, 28, 29, and a lot of lads moved on. There was kind of a bit of regime change at the club.
Okay.
And Sale came back and they're interested, and again Sale had a new DOR and it kind of sold it. It's really exciting, and there's quite a lot of investment in the squad. So similar idea really. I kind of wanted to win something. I think that's the main part of my career, that I kind of wanted to get somewhere.
You've got your England cap. You've played for England. I mean, it's a dream of most sportsmen to play for the country. What was it like running out in front of thousands of people?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was amazing, to be honest. It was amazing. I think it was the week building up to it, the kind of realization that it was going to happen. I think that was the thing I remember most. I think the game passes you by quite easily. I think before and afterwards, getting my cap afterwards, and kind of being at Pennyhill Park where they train afterwards and having a beer with everyone with your cap on and stuff like that. Like, that'll stick with me, I think, for forever. And I think it's one of those things where you always want to do it, but you always want more when you get it. And unfortunately, that didn't happen for numerous reasons. But very proud of the fact that that happened.
That's how you should be.
Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, fantastic. When you were at school, was there a competition for your services? Were you generally good at sport or around sport?
Yeah.
That has to be modest.
It's find it hard not to, but I think so. I really enjoyed my cricket.
Yeah.
I was quite a good batsman, not that good, but I really enjoyed it. I love my football. Probably love my football more now, watching it, definitely. But I think all around sports, I did from a kid. I played a lot of sport, like tennis and stuff, and football, cricket, rugby, obviously. I think it really helped me. I think like ball skills.
Did you ever hit the heights with any of those? Did you ever play at any?
No.
Okay.
There was kind of a choice at school. I remember I played first team cricket. I think when I was in maybe year 10. So and they were kind of like, you kind of have to choose between your rugby and your cricket. And for me, it was a pretty easy decision,
right?
To pick the rugby. Same thing happened when I left school. I started a university degree at Manchester. Finished first year of that, and again they were kind of saying you're gonna have to pick between one or the other. And again, I chose rugby. So it kind of worked out well. Okay.
From non-rugby playing people, want to explain your position within the game, what it actually means, what you do?
I play hooker.
Yeah.
So number 2. Like my dad did, my uncle did, so kind of didn't really have a choice, I think. You're right in the middle of it, really. You kind of involve a lot of things. You're in the middle of the scrum, so you control the scrum. It's your kind of your domain, really.
Yeah.
You're throwing the line out, and you also kind of have to work as another back row player, so you've got to be quite prominent around the park and stuff. So the thing came out the other day about the salaries in the Premiership, and hooker was the least paid on average, which I think is travesty, because I think we do the most work. But so I think you kind of right in the middle, right in the mixer, which I enjoy. That's kind of where I want to be, and kind of all action, really.
Okay. Training and the game itself can be brutal. And the guys these days are huge, and there must be loads of injuries. I know you've had your fair share of injuries. Do you get worried about getting injured, or is it more that your family are more worried about you getting injured than you are?
Yeah, my mum, definitely. I think my mum comes to watch the game, and I think she just hides inside, really. I don't think she actually watches it. But I don't think there's necessarily a worry about it. I think we get looked after incredibly. I think I've had 2 knee reconstructions, and I think that's a 6 to 8 month rehab job, which takes you out of the game a long time. But your sole focus, it's your job to focus on that knee. Whereas I've had mates that do it, that we will be working as an accountant or as something else, and they've obviously got their jobs, and then they've got to rehab their knee as well at the same time, and you can't focus on it. Whereas I could focus on that 24/7. I think that part of it makes it a lot easier. But I think the worrying aspect of it, I don't think so. I think there's always a bit, when you come back from long-term injury, there's always a thought, am I going to be the same player? Am I going to be a bit shy from tackling and stuff like that? But I think when it comes to it and you kind of get onto the pitch, it's something clicks. I think it's something natural that you don't. It's the most comfortable I ever feel. Okay. It's most confident anyway on the pitch. I never used to be that confident when I was a kid, but as soon as I started playing rugby and I was on the pitch, you kind of grow a little bit, which kind of I think proves how much I enjoy it.
Okay. And head injuries. I know you've had concussions as well,
Yes,
presumably in the past.
Yeah.
Is this a big issue in rugby at the moment?
Yeah, it is a big issue, to be honest. I think there's a big lawsuit going on about ex-players and the early onset dementia stuff, which is quite worrying for current players. I think it is, but I think from when I started playing, probably about 12 years ago professionally, even then they were bringing in concussion protocols then, which were quite basic, but they were still there, and I think it's progressed. And I do think rugby is probably the leading light in head injuries. I think you look at how football have managed it the past few years, which it's almost a tick box exercise. You don't really see people coming off, whereas especially this year, they brought in even more this year. If you get knocked out in a game or concussed, you have to have 14 days off completely.
Yeah.
Whereas before you could turn around in 6 days and play next week. We've got independent doctors who aren't from each side, who are there watching the game. And the thing now, even if you make a tackle and you hold your head, you might not have got bang, or if you hold your head, you're off straight away. And then you have an assessment. Yeah. And the assessments have got more and more thorough. And it's all good. It's good for the game. I think long term, I think rugby's trying to grow globally, and trying to increase people's want to play and get new people into play, because that's the only way it's going to grow. You have rugby families like mine who are always going to play, but if you've got people who maybe normally play football, they're the people who want to get into rugby. And I think the only way to do that is to make it safer, and make it make it safer and long term healthier.
Is it some of the schools as well? If we look at schools rugby, it tends to be the independent schools rather than reducing the rugby player. Much the same as it is in cricket at the moment.
Yeah, it is.
Is there a push to get that out to all schools?
Massively. I think I play with a guy called Simon McIntyre, and he's working with the IFU at the moment actually to try and spread the game and widen the game into state schools and into maybe probably more underprivileged areas where it wouldn't have happened in the past. And I think you look at the England team now, and it is a varied mix of backgrounds, schooling, and I think that's it's good. It's a good start, but I think, as you said, it starts at the grassroots. You can't just have people from Kings playing rugby. You need people from all sorts of schools that play rugby, which is hard. It's a long-term fix, I think, definitely. It's not going to happen overnight, but if you put investment into it, you're going to have a bigger pool of players to pick from, more talent, and a better national side, I'd say.
Okay. Going forward, have you thought about what you want to do? I mean, you've probably got loads of years left in the game, but what have you thought about what you'd like to do afterwards? Because it can be a difficult transition from being a professional rugby player, where you've got the rigors of training and match day and so on, through to kind of what I would do normal going to work and back.
No, I think speaking to players that have dropped out of the game maybe early or even when they're retired, I think one of the main things they struggle with is the identity of it. So the identity of being a professional rugby player, and then that goes, and you're very quickly an ex-rugby player. And when there's a lot of doors open when you play rugby, and those doors are shut when you're an ex-rugby player. And I think you've kind of got to make the most of it while you're playing. So, like for me, for example, I did a degree when I was probably in my early 20s, completed that. Tried loads of different little things, bit of surveying, bit of wanted to be a tree surgeon.
Right.
Even dabbled in dog training.
Right.
Yeah, that didn't work out, thankfully. But now I've kind of focused a little bit on it's like behavioural management. So I'm really interested in how people create environments. And leaders create environments, how to get the best out of their employees, and that's not just in sport, it's in business. So I've done a few talks at conferences about mainly about feedback and how to get the best feedback and encourage feedback in organisations. Because in my world, in professional sport, we have an unbelievable amount of feedback every single day. We have GPS.
Yeah.
We have videos. We go home. We've got an app where we can watch training and the coaches can comment on training when you're at home, and what you've done and stuff like that. There's a huge amount of feedback, and I'm not saying you need that amount of feedback in an office environment like this, but I think if you can create a psychologically safe environment where somebody can give somebody some constructive feedback and they take it well, I think it's beneficial for the company and
very good,
and make it more efficient and enjoyable, I think.
Do the rigours of training get you down? Because you must have to do it all the time. Well, how many days a week? I don't know how many days a week you train, and it must be tough every day going out in the winter, freezing cold, pouring with rain.
Yeah.
Does it bother you?
It doesn't bother. Like, a lot of the lads don't like pre-season. I love pre-season. I do. I really like it. But obviously, there's parts where it's midwinter, and especially as a forward, you're going out for our scrum and line-out sessions where it's very physical and you have to be on it every single day. Like, talk about the feedback. That is, you can't really have a day off because there's so much competition. So where I'm at Sale now, we've got 3 hookers in my position, and one of them is South African hooker who's probably the best hooker I've played with or played against. I think I rate him so highly. And then we've got a young lad who's starting for Scotland at the moment. So my level of competition at the moment is pretty big. Yeah. So I know that every single day I have to turn up and I have to be the best. And that can be quite hard. I think the older you get, the more you realise you have to do that, I think, to make the most of it. But the actual physical aspect of it is fine because they do look after you now, I think.
Okay.
5-6 years ago, probably not. Whereas we mentioned the head knocks and the concussion.
Yeah.
All our contact training has dropped massively. Like, we would never do like live training really, like full 15 on 15 like a game in training. It's a lot more controlled, and that all happens at the weekend. So that part of it's a lot more controlled, a lot better.
What does success mean to you? What makes you tick?
Tough question. I think success, for me, is more of a feeling. I think I feel success. Say if I feel successful, I feel when I'm feeling empowered, when I feel kind of, we talk about in the flow a little bit, and you don't have to think about it so much. And I think that's when I feel I'm at the best. And that's what creates my best performances, and that's when I'm most successful, when I'm not necessarily thinking about little things or little technical things. I've just started a thing. I've got like those. I always put a little strapping around my arm with initials of my family on it, and then this season I've just put a little smiley face on my arm there, just to look down and be like, you've got to enjoy this, because I feel like when I'm enjoying it, I'm kind of in that state, I'm in that flow, and I'm more successful, I perform better. So I think it's that enjoyment, and I think you can only really get enjoyment when you're being empowered by your leaders, by given the responsibility, and I think for me that's kind of what works for me. We
normally end our podcast with a quick fire round. So for you, local pub or city centre bar?
Local pub, yeah.
Time with the family or time with teammates?
Family, I'll say family. Yeah, family definitely. I've got 2 little kids now, so that's very fulfilling. I absolutely love it. And
the teammates come a close second.
Depends on what mood I'm in. Yeah, if we're out for a few drinks, maybe teammates. But family. I think it's also nice to say I've come back up here. Also, my mum and dad are up here. My brother lives just around the corner from me, and my grandparents and stuff. So that's a lovely part of it.
And finally, Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss, or Boris Johnson, or neither, or none.
Got to give Liz Truss a bit of time. Not Boris for me. I'd have to say Liz because she's not had enough time yet. I'll see how she gets on.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Tommy Taylor, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
No worries.
And we look forward to speaking again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much
indeed.
Cheers. Thank you.